Hi everyone, greetings to all of you. Welcome back to my biology channel. I'm teacher Janet. In this video, we'll discuss biology from 5 subtopic 6.4 on the 4 different types of fruits, which are the simple fruit, aggregate fruit, accessory fruit, and also multiple fruit. So the classification and type of fruit depends on the number of flowers and also ovaries. So what are the differences between the 4 types of fruit? And pineapple is what type of fruit? Let's find out more about that. And we have to know how to classify the fruit according to its type of fruit, okay, according to the fruit type. So let's find out more about the different types of fruits. The learning standards are as follows. 6.4, development of seeds and fruits. You should be able to collect specimens of fruits to study the 4 different types of fruits. And these are the simple fruit, number 2, the aggregate fruit, number 3, the multiple fruit, and 4, the accessory fruit. So apart from that, we should be able to know the characteristics of each type of fruit and what are the differences between the different types of fruits. So we have a simple acronym here which I want to teach you. There are 4 different types of fruits based on the type of flower, okay, and also the ovary. Now the types of fruits are, acronym is SAMA, sama. Like in Malay we say sama means the same, right? Now, so sama stands for S for simple fruit, A for aggregate fruit, M for multiple fruit, and another A is for accessory fruit. Okay, aggregate fruit and accessory fruit both start with A. So we have to memorize these 4 terms. These are the key words, right? For example, the tomato can be regarded as a simple fruit. The raspberry is an aggregate fruit. Pineapple is a multiple fruit, and the apple and also the cashew nut fruit is an accessory fruit. Let's find out how to classify these types of fruits. So the criteria for classification of fruit, all right? This is something important to remember so that you understand how the fruit is classified. Now, classification of a fruit depends on, number 1, the number of flowers involved, whether one flower is involved in the development of the fruit or many flowers are involved in the development of the fruit. Number 2, the number of ovaries which are found in the couples. Okay, number of ovaries involved, one or many. All right, so a couple is a female reproductive structure consisting of the stigma, style, and also the ovary below, right? So inside the couple, in the couple, there is an ovary, right? And how many couples are involved in the formation of the fruit? How many ovaries are involved? That is also one of the criteria for the classification of a fruit. And then whether the fruit develops directly from the ovary or not from the ovary, but from other tissues in the flower like the receptacle. Okay, so let's have a look at how these criteria are used. First of all, let's look at the summary and the concept map as well as the flow chart that will help you to understand this topic better. Now, here is a very good flow chart which you can copy down to show you the classification of the fruit. Okay. Now, the fruit develops from, if the fruit develops from a single flower, then it can either form the simple fruit or aggregate fruit. But if the fruit develops from many flowers in a cluster, in an inflorescence, there are many ovaries involved in the formation of one fruit, then it's called a multiple fruit. And if the fruit develops from either a single flower or many flowers, but it does not develop from the ovary, fruit develops from other tissues, not the ovary, such as fruit develops from the receptacle, which is below the petals, then it's called an accessory fruit. Okay, so let me go through this flowchart more. Okay, now first you must be able to recognize the parts of the female reproductive structure. Okay, if the stigma at the top, the whole thing is called a couple. So this couple consists of the stigma, to receive the pollen grains, then the style where the pollen tube will grow, and then we have the ovary here. So the ovary inside contains the ovule, okay, the black spots here, and in each ovule is the seed. Ovule will develop into a seed, and there will be the offspring there, okay, that can grow after fertilization. So if the fruit, now let's start with the first one. The fruit develops from just a single flower, all right, such as the tomato flower or the pea flower. And then it has a single ovary. One flower has one ovary. This is the normal type of flower, right? One has one couple with one ovary, okay? So I usually refer to the ovary, not the couple, but here I mentioned the couple also. Then if it's a fruit that develops from a single flower with a single ovary, it's called a simple fruit. Okay, and I can see here, this green part is the part that we are going to focus on. So this is the couple. So there is one couple with one round ovary here, which contains here two ovules that forms two seeds. But the flower may have more than two ovules. So like the papaya flower inside, there are many ovules that develop into many seeds, right? You cut open a papaya fruit, you will know. There are many seeds inside because there are many ovules in each papaya flower, okay? But only one ovary, okay? So if the fruit develops from a single flower with a single ovary, it's called a simple fruit, the simplest. But some flowers, they have many ovaries. Now, as you can see here, there are many couples here that are all fused together. And here you have 5 ovaries with the ovules and which develops into the seeds later on. Okay, so a single flower with many ovaries as compared to a single ovary. So if the fruit develops from a single flower with many ovaries, okay, that are found in many couples, then it is an aggregate fruit. The word aggregate tends to picture or denote many units of one structure. So many ovaries. That's why it's called aggregate fruit. Okay, it's just one fruit, but it has many. It's formed from many ovaries that where the ovary wall will develop. Each ovary wall will develop. Okay. So example of this is the raspberry fruit, as we'll see later. Now, the fruit can also develop from many flowers in a cluster, not just from one single flower. Okay, so some flowers are grouped into clusters like this. Okay, so there are many flowers on a single stalk. So there are many ovaries. Each flower has a single ovary, as you can see here. All the green parts are the ovaries, or the couples with ovaries. Each flower has a single ovary, but the flowers are all grouped together. And this whole thing will form one fruit. Okay, so that is called a multiple fruit. Example is the pineapple. Pineapple is not formed from just one ovary. The fruit is formed from many ovaries that develop to form the fruit. And these ovaries are found in many different flowers, okay, that are grouped together. Now, if the fruit develops from either a single flower or many flowers, but it does not develop from the ovary, fruit develops from other tissues like the receptacle below, then it's called an accessory fruit. Okay, as you can see here, the orange part is a receptacle that's developed, and the ovary remains almost the same, it didn't develop, remains almost the same as in the flower. So after fertilization, it's the receptacle that becomes bigger, thicker, and fleshier, full of fleshy and full of nutrients and also water and other substances. Okay, so that develops, and that is called an accessory fruit. An example is the apple. Okay. Now here's another way of looking at it in the picture form. So some people understand better in the flow from the flow chart. Some people need to have the pictures, more pictures to help them understand. Okay, so you can also try to understand from this table format. Okay, from the facts in this table form. So for simple fruit, for the flower, there's only one ovary in the flower. Okay, this green structure, this rounded structure is the ovary. Okay, in the couple. And after double fertilization, the ovary develops, and the wall of the ovary develops to form the fleshy part of the fruit. Okay, so the seeds can be one single seed or many seeds or few seeds, depending on the number of ovules. But that does not, that is not a point or criteria for classification of fruit. Okay. Now, one example of a simple fruit is the mango. Now you can see here. You see this fruit wall, the yellow part, develops from the single ovary. Okay, it's fleshy and succulent or juicy, and this is the part that we eat. Okay, but after you eat the fruit, you will come to the seed, which is surrounded by a hard covering. So that's one part of the seed of the fruit, and inside there is a seed. Now, if you shake the hard structure, you will hear a knocking sound. That is the seed inside. So for mango, there's only one ovule forming one that develops into one seed. Okay, but the important thing here is that the mango, one mango fruit forms from, each mango fruit forms from one flower. Okay, with one ovary. Now let's look at the aggregate fruit. For the aggregate fruit, the word aggregate means to group together. It means that there are many ovaries grouped together in one flower, right? And then each ovary develops into a fruit. So the fruits are all stuck together because they are in the same flower. And as the fruits grow, you can see that they'll form tiny fruitlets. So all these tiny fruits here, all right, they are grouped together because they come from one flower with many ovaries. Example is the raspberry fruit. Okay, right. But for strawberry, it's different. So we're not looking at strawberry yet. So this is the raspberry fruit. Now let's go on to multiple fruits. For multiple fruits, there are many ovaries, but each ovary is in one flower, and the flowers are all grouped together. Okay, so many ovaries in many flowers. That's why it's called multiple. Multiple stands for many ovaries in many. Many ovaries in many flowers. M for multiple, and for many ovaries, many flowers. Okay, and for multiple, and for many ovaries and many flowers. So each ovary in each flower develops into a fruit. So it seems to look like the aggregate fruit, but the difference is that for multiple fruit, each ovary is found in a flower separate from another ovary. Okay, so many flowers are involved, whereas for aggregate fruit, the many ovaries are found in only a single flower. Okay, for multiple fruit, the many ovaries are found in many flowers. Right? One example of a multiple fruit is the pineapple. You can see all the tiny fruits here, which are almost like a hexagonal in shape, right? They develop from different flowers in the cluster of flowers. Okay, in the pineapple plant. Right? Now this top part you don't have to know, but anyway, the stalk is below here. Okay, so that's a multiple fruit that develops from many ovaries in many flowers. Accessory fruit is very simple. Accessory means like some extra structure, okay, not the ovary itself, that is used to form the extra structure that's used to form the fruit. Okay, now for accessory fruits, for example, it has the ovary may be found in the receptacle region. It's not on top of the receptacle. You see, for most flowers, the receptacle is below the ovary. Okay, this is the ovary. These are all the ovaries, and the receptacle is below the ovary. Okay, now this is the receptacle. This is the receptacle. But for certain fruits, the ovary seems to be submerged in the receptacle itself. Okay, and then after fertilization, the ovary remains almost the same. It didn't develop. The fruit develops from the receptacle, as an example. So the orange part is the receptacle. It develops and grows bigger and bigger, becomes the fleshy part of the fruit. Okay, so the receptacle forms the fruit. Now, for accessory fruits, other parts may also form the fruit. But here we take the common example. It's the receptacle that forms the fruit. Example is the apple. Now look at the apple. The fleshy part here is actually formed from the receptacle. Okay, receptacle forms the fruit. And the ovary wall, the blue part here, remains like paper thin, and then the seeds are inside. So the ovary wall did not develop to form the fleshy fruit as in most fruits, but it is the receptacle that forms the fruit, becomes thicker and flesh and becomes very fleshy and juicy. Okay, so the apple is actually formed from the receptacle, the apple fruit. Okay, the fleshy part is formed from the receptacle, not the ovary. Now, next, comparison of 4 types of fruits. So again, this is a summary. As I said, many students, for different students, there are different ways of understanding. So I give you an extra comparison here, which is similar to the 2 slides before. Okay, but it's in a table format. Now, for simple fruit, number of ovaries, only 1 ovary is involved. Okay, but it may have 1 or more ovules which develop into seeds. The ovary may have more than 1 seed. Okay, the number of couples, there's only 1 couple involved which contains the ovary, or there will be many few couples but only 1 ovary. Important thing is 1 ovary. Okay, because textbook refer to the couple, so I mentioned the couple here. Okay, normally we consider the ovary and the flower. So if the simple fruit, if a fruit is formed from 1 ovary found in 1 flower, then the fruit is a simple fruit. And example is the pea fruit, tomato fruit, and the papaya fruit. Now, aggregate fruit, on the other hand, is formed from many ovaries in many couples, but found in 1 flower. Example is the raspberry. Okay. Now, multiple fruit is formed from many ovaries found in many couples in many flowers, not just 1 flower. So many flowers that cluster together form a cluster or an inflorescence. Okay, so some types of flowers are not single, they form clusters of flowers. So example is the pineapple fruit. And lastly, for accessory fruit, the fruit develops from a tissue not in the ovary, but from other tissues near the ovary or near the couple. Example is the apple. The fruit develops from the receptacle, which is not the ovary. Cashew nut fruit and strawberry. So strawberry is an accessory fruit, whereas raspberry is an aggregate fruit. Okay, raspberry is an aggregate fruit, strawberry is an accessory fruit. But we don't study much about the strawberry here. We focus on the apple. Later on, we'll explain a bit more. Here is a very good summary of the 4 different types of fruits and how they are classified. So there are 4 types of fruits. Now you can copy down these notes in your notebook first and then try to answer by filling in the blanks. And we'll discuss the answers afterwards. So you can pause the video now and try and find the answers first. Right, let's look at the answers. So there are 4 different types of fruits, namely simple fruit, aggregate fruit, multiple fruit, and accessory fruit. Now, what is a simple fruit? A simple fruit, now this is the definition, develops from from what ovary? A single ovary. Okay, now textbook uses the word couple, but ovary is the preferred word among the sources, okay, the reliable sources. So what is the other structure that we must mention in our definition? The flower, right? So it's in a single flower, okay? Single ovary, single flower. Example is pea, the pea fruit. Secondly, an aggregate fruit develops from how many ovaries? Many ovaries or numerous ovaries and couples found within a single flower. Okay, example is raspberry. Thirdly, multiple fruit develops from single or many ovaries? Many ovaries or numerous ovaries and couples of a single flower or group of flowers. So it's a group of flowers that are on the same stalk. Okay, so we call this a cluster of flowers. Example, pineapple. Fourthly, an accessory fruit develops from the tissue, a tissue that is not in the ovary, such as the receptacle. Okay, the receptacle is the structure at the base of the flower, but the fruit may include the ovary inside. Okay, example is apple. So there you have it, the definition for the 4 different types of fruits, which you can copy into your notebook. Here is a very good memory tip to remember the characteristics of the 4 different types of fruit. So look at the first letters in the name of the fruit. For example, simple fruit. The first letter is S. S stands for simple, simple fruit, but it can also stand for single. So the simple fruit is formed from the single flower, another S with a single ovary or a single couple that contains one ovary. Okay, so it can be a single ovary but many fused couples at the top with many stigmas and stars, but only one single ovary. Okay, so S for simple fruit. Think of S for single flower, formed from single flower with a single ovary. Now, aggregate fruit. The 2 words here, the 2 letters, AG. A stands for a flower. It's formed from a flower with a G here for group of ovaries. One flower, but it doesn't have only one single ovary. It has a group of ovaries or couples, or many ovaries and couples. Okay, so aggregate A for a flower, G for a group of ovaries. Now, multiple fruit is formed from, the word M here can mean multiple. It also means many flowers. Cluster of flowers or inflorescence. Okay, all joined together into at one stalk. Okay, with one stalk to connect them. And then it has, because there are many flowers, and if each flower has even just one single ovary, then there are many ovaries. Okay, so the whole structure forms a multiple fruit after fertilization. So M for multiple fruit means that it's formed from many flowers with many ovaries. M, M, M. M for multiple and M for many flowers, many ovaries. Now, accessory fruit. For this type of fruit, look at the 2 letters here, O and R. The O here means other parts of the flower. Accessory fruit is formed from other parts of the flower other than ovary. Not the ovary, other than ovary. For example, from the receptacle. The R is for the receptacle. To remind you, one part where the flower can develop, the fruit can develop from, one part where the fruit can develop from is the receptacle. For example, in the apple, the receptacle surrounds the ovary. So it's the receptacle that develops and forms the fruit. Okay, so O for other than ovary and R for receptacle as an example of the part that forms the fruit. In this section, we will discuss the definition of the different types of fruits, the 4 different types of fruits, and also the explanation, detailed explanation, and diagrams, which will help you to understand the classification of the fruits better. Now, I will go into detail about the 4 types of fruit. So this is a little bit more detailed, but it will help you understand. So you can continue to discuss here and listen to the explanation. Okay. Now, for simple fruit, so we say there are 4 types of fruits. For a simple fruit, the fruit develops from a single couple or several fused couples, but with a single ovary in a single flower. The important is single ovary with single flower for simple fruit. Now, here is the structure of the pea flower. You can see that there's only one flower involved. It has a single ovary, which is the yellow part here. It has many seeds, many ovules that form many seeds, right? So after fertilization, the pea fruit is formed. The ovary wall develops, grows, and it forms the fruit wall. But for pea plant, the fruit wall is sort of dry. It forms a dry, thin pericarp. Still, it is the ovary wall. It's formed from the ovary wall. Okay, and there are many seeds inside here. So this is a simple fruit. Why? Because it's formed from a single flower with a single ovary, right? Now, on the other hand, there's another type of simple fruit which has a fleshy wall. All right. Example is the mango fruit. So after fertilization, the ovary wall of the mango flower, the ovary wall, develops and grows and then becomes thick and fleshy. It forms a thick, fleshy pericarp, not the dry thin pericarp, but a thick, fleshy pericarp, made up of the exocarp, which is the skin, the mesocarp, which is the succulent or juicy layer, and the endocarp, which is the hard layer. Inside the endocarp is the seed. Okay, so we have two types of fruits for simple fruit: the dry fruit and the succulent fruit. Okay, both are simple fruits. Now, in your activity, all right, in the textbook, activity 6.6, you are asked to observe the structure of the papaya fruit, which is a simple fruit, and relate it to the structure of its flower. Okay, so I've searched through, and this is the picture which I've drawn of the papaya flower, the female papaya flower that contains the stigma, okay, a lot of stigmas fused together to form one ovary only. Since the fruit develops from a single flower with a single ovary, is called a simple fruit. So the papaya fruit is a simple fruit, okay? Because it's formed from one ovary in a single flower, okay? But it has a lot of ovules that forms many seeds inside, okay? Still is a simple fruit. Okay, now let's look at the papaya fruit's structure. So this video is useful if your teacher asks you to observe the structure of the papaya fruit and then write a report. You can refer to this, right? So now after fertilization, the ovary develops to form the fruit wall, which consists of the exocarp, which is the skin, mesocarp, which is the succulent or juicy layer that we eat, and then the endocarp, which is a thin layer here. Okay, then inside the ovules will develop to form the seeds after fertilization. So there are many seeds inside formed from many ovules in the flower. Okay, so the papaya fruit is a simple fruit because it develops from one flower here, the female flower, because papaya got female and male flowers. For the female flower, it contains the ovary. Okay, so papaya fruit is a simple fruit that develops from one flower with one ovary. One flower here with a single ovary, single flower with a single ovary. But anyway, it has many seeds in the one ovary. That does not determine the type of fruit. The number of seeds does not determine the type of fruit. It's the number of ovaries that form the single fruit. So there's only one ovary involved. So it is a simple fruit. Okay. Now let's go on to aggregate fruit. So this came out in SPM 2022 structured question, where they show the picture of a flower and then they ask you, what's the type of fruit and so forth. So for aggregate fruit, the AG here stands for a flower with a group of ovaries. A for a flower, G for group of ovaries. So the fruit develops from numerous couples or many ovaries in a single flower. Okay. An example is the raspberry flower. Let's look at the structure of the raspberry flower. So all these are researched from the net and shown you here so that you can see the relationship, can relate the fruit to the flower, okay, and also how the flower develops into the fruit after fertilization. So it will help in your understanding of these terms like aggregate fruit, simple fruit, and so forth. Now, in the raspberry flower, one flower, there are many stamens and many couples here. All right, the tiny couples here. So if you look at the cross section, it looks something like that. You see the flower has sepals, green sepals below it, and then these are the petals. And then it has the rounded structure where there are many couples on it with many ovaries. Okay, stamens are on the outer ring, and then the couples are in the center here. But there are many couples, not just one couple or one ovary. So there are many couples with many ovaries, but from one single flower. Okay, so after fertilization, the fruit is formed. Now the fruit looks like that. It looks very cute and very delicious also, right? Got many tiny fruitlets. Okay, now this word, Look at the picture on the right. You can see the fruitlets here, very juicy. Each fruitlet is formed from one ovary. So there are many ovaries on this one flower. You see, after fertilization, let's look at the second picture here. Okay, so this drawing will help you to understand. All right, this is my own drawing. So you can see here, after fertilization, the stigma will dry up. Okay, and then each ovary develops into a fruit. Now you can see this is one ovary that's developed into a fruit with a seed inside. Okay, this is another ovary. So there are many ovaries that develops into tiny little fruitlets that are all clustered together. All right, quite well organized. And the receptacle is in the center here, but it's not the receptacle that develops. It is the ovary that develops into the fruits, the juicy fruits. The receptacle in the center here. And then we have the peduncle or the fruit, the stalk, fruit stalk, and then or the flower stalk, and then the sepals are below. Okay, so that's how the raspberry fruit is formed. Okay, now, so for the raspberry fruit, there are many small fruits or fruitlets in the large fruit. See, this is a large fruit, but it's made up of many tiny fruits, which are called the fruitlets, tiny fruits. Okay, and if you look at the flower, now this is the real flower. I have to search for you this flower, right? And you can see that now surrounding the center part here, these are all the stamens with the anthers, okay, that produce the pollen grains. And then in the center here, this center here is the receptacle with the carpels. Now see, this center part is the same as this center part here, or this center part here, right? So many carpels, the red structures here, long elongated structures. These are the carpels with the stigma, and then below that are the many ovaries. There are 80 carpels, that means 80 ovaries, about 80 ovaries here. Each one develops into a fruitlet after fertilization. And then it forms the fruit. And then the petals will wither and fall off. Okay? So remember, for the aggregate fruit such as the raspberry, the fruit develops from numerous couples with numerous ovaries, or many couples with many ovaries, but is from a single flower. Okay? A for a single flower with a group of ovaries. Next, we have the multiple fruit. This fruit develops from many couples, that is many ovaries again, but in many flowers. Okay, in many flowers that are grouped together to form a cluster. Okay, so many flowers in an inflorescence or a cluster, as seen here. Okay, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, many flowers here in a single stalk. So it's called a cluster of flowers. An example of a multiple fruit, where M stands for what? Many flowers with many ovaries. Okay, example is the pineapple fruit. Now let's look at the pineapple flower. Again, it takes a while to find all these beautiful pictures of the pineapple flowers. Okay, and this is my own drawing. Now, many purple flowers with many ovaries. You see, this is the pineapple flower. How many of you have seen a pineapple flower? Not many, right? Now, the flower is purple in color. Okay, so as it grows, it has got some other structures around it, like the reddish part. Don't bother about that. The flower is the purple one. So many flowers are grouped together, in an inflorescence. Okay, and each flower contains one ovary, right? So the pineapple fruit develops from many pineapple flowers in a single cluster or inflorescence, as seen here. Okay, then after fertilization, each ovary in each purple flower develops to form a fruit, which we call fruitlet, because it's a tiny fruit. And all these tiny fruitlets are grouped together because they come from the same stalk. Okay, they were attached to the same stalk. The stalk is below here. Okay, so the pineapple fruit is made up of individual fruitlets, okay, which are more or less outlined here, that are grouped together. All right, now if you cut through a pineapple, you can see that it's made of many individual fruitlets grouped around the stalk area here. Okay, so remember, M multiple fruit. M stands for multiple fruit. M stands for many flowers, from many flowers with many ovaries. Lastly, the accessory fruit. Now, the accessory fruit, the word accessory means is something extra added in. It's not the main thing, okay? So, accessory fruit, O for other parts, not the ovary. So, the fruit develops from a tissue that is not in the ovary, but from tissues near the ovary, maybe near the ovary. This came out in SPM 2022 also in the structured question. Now, look at this picture, okay, which is something like the picture in the exam paper. All right, so this is a picture of the apple flower. Okay, so I've taken the trouble to show you the drawing. Okay, and this is also taken from very good references. So the apple flower looks like that. You can't find this picture in most books. You see, it has anthers. The flower has anthers on the outer ring, and then in the center it has many stigmas, and then fused to form the single ovary here. Okay, and inside is the ovule with the seeds, which forms the seeds. Okay, now the ovary, the main unique characteristic is that the ovary is hidden in the receptacle. It's sort of buried or hidden, submerged into the receptacle. Most of the time, the ovary is above the receptacle, but in this case, the ovary is in the receptacle, surrounded by the receptacle itself. So after fertilization, the stigma will dry up, right? Then what happens to the ovary? The ovary did not develop much. Now, this is the ovary. It forms a paper thin layer. It is the orange part, it is the, in this case, it is the greenish part here that develops. Okay? That is the receptacle. So the receptacle develops into the fleshy fruit, which we eat. And the ovary is at the core of the apple. Okay, it's a little bit hard. And inside are the seeds. Normally, we don't eat this part, right? We will cut away this part with the ovary and the seed. And this is the pedicel, which is the flower stalk and also the fruit stalk at the end. Okay, sepals at the top here will dry up. So these are remains of the, the style. Style will dry up. Sepal also dry up. See or not? So we are only this part develop, to form the fruit. The style will dry up. Even this green part, the sepal will dry up. But the receptacle below is the one that develops. Okay, right. So receptacle develops into the fleshy fruit, and the ovary does not develop. Okay, so this is an accessory fruit because the fruit develops from a tissue that's not found in the ovary, but from the receptacle, which is a tissue near the ovary. Okay, that's the apple fruit. It is an accessory fruit. Okay, so sepal is at upper part already, not the lower part, because the receptacle below is the part that develops. So finally, for this part, here again is a summary of the definitions which we have discussed in the previous section. In case you did not manage to copy it, okay, this is the summary of the 4 different types of fruits and the definitions for them. The simple fruit, aggregate fruit, multiple fruit, and accessory fruit. In this 4th section, which is the last section, we will discuss some questions related to the topic of types of fruits, including HOTS questions. Let's try question 1. So this is a type of question that can be asked in your exam, right? Now, which of the following is false? So you can pause the video for a while and look through the question, right? And we will discuss afterwards. Right, let's discuss this question. So here's a table with the titles flower, ovary, type of fruit, and an example of the fruit, right? So for example, multiple fruit. A multiple fruit is formed or develops from many ovaries in many flowers or in a cluster of flowers. Is that correct? Yes, it's correct. Okay, an example, the example given, pineapple, is also correct. Now let's look at B. A single fruit develops from a single ovary in a single flower. Example is papaya. Is that correct? Something is wrong with the terms here. The terminology is wrong. So what is the wrong term? Yes, it should not be single fruit. It should be simple fruit. So this is the answer. Okay, this so-called this statement of fact is wrong. Okay, simple fruit, not single fruit. Now, thirdly, an aggregate fruit develops from many ovaries found in a single flower. Is correct. An example is also correct. Raspberry. The example is raspberry, so it's correct. Fourthly, an accessory fruit is a fruit that does not develop from the ovary but from other parts near the ovary, okay, or in the flower. So the ovary may be a single ovary in a single flower, or uh, many ovaries in a single flower, or many flowers. It doesn't matter. Important thing is that the fruit does not develop from the ovary but from other parts of the plant. Okay, so example is apple. This is correct. Okay, so the answer is B. Let's look at this interesting question here. Question 2, which is a hot question. The picture below shows a cashew apple fruit with a cashew nut attached to it. Based on the diagram, what type of fruit is X? So X is actually called the cashew apple. And it is a structure that develops from the pedicel and receptacle of the flower. So that's the hint for you. And then the cashew nut is found at the tip of the cashew apple. It contains the outer shell and the inner seed. Okay. Now, based on the information here, what type of fruit is the cashew apple, which is X? Pause the video for a minute and think about the answer. Right. So what is your answer? Okay, the answer should be D, accessory fruit. Okay, based on the hint here. Because the cashew apple, or X, develops from the pedicel and receptacle of the flower, and it did not develop from the ovary. Okay, so it is called an accessory fruit. The O here, accessory, the O here stands for other than ovary. The fruit develops from other parts other than the ovary. So the fruit here developed from the pedicel, which is the stalk, and the receptacle of the flower. Okay, the pedicel and receptacle are found below the flower actually, at the base of the flower. Okay, then what happened to the flower? Now the flower contains the ovary, and it finally developed to form the cashew nut with the shell. The outer shell is was actually the wall of the ovary that developed, okay, to form the shell, and inside is the seed, which developed from the ovule of the flower. Okay, so let's see this note here. The whole cashew fruit here is a unique structure consisting of two parts. The cashew apple, which is a false fruit that develops from the pedicel and receptacle of the flower, not from the ovary. So that's why it's called a false fruit. Okay, because the real fruits, the fruits that are really fruits, must develop from the ovary wall. Okay, now cashew nut. Cashew nut is the real seed at the tip of the cashew apple. Okay, so this is the part where the flower was, and it shriveled up, and then the ovary developed into the shell, outer shell. Okay, the wall of the ovary developed to form the hard outer shell of pericarp, and inside is the inner seed, which sometimes is called the kernel. Let's look at question 3, which is an extra hot question. All right, so let's apply our knowledge on the types of fruits and the characteristics to this question. What type of fruit is the strawberry? Okay, so to know what type of fruit the strawberry is, we have to look at the flower and see which part of the flower develops and how it develops. Okay, so here we have the strawberry flower. It has many ovaries, okay, in the many couples here. So this is the anther, which produces the pollen grains, and then this is the stigma of each couple, and then the star, and then the orange part are the ovaries. Okay, so one flower contains many ovaries, and then in the center here is a raised up receptacle, which is quite big. Now, after fertilization, the part that develops is the receptacle, okay, the yellow part. And later on, when it is ripe, the fleshy receptacle will turn red in color. Now, what happens to the ovary? So the ovary will also develop, and it will form the, now this orange part of the ovary, it will form the fruit with, one fruit has one seed inside, okay, and the whole structure is called an achene, tiny fruits. So the ovary probably develops a little, okay, but the main part that develops is the fleshy receptacle, is the receptacle. All right, the fleshy part that we eat is the receptacle, which is red in color. Okay, now so let's refer to the actual photographs on the strawberry flower and fruit. So the strawberry flower, if compared to the one here, is the same thing. It has the same structure. Okay, the petals form the outer ring. Then the second inner ring here is made up of the anthers, right? And then the third ring here, or the center part of the flower consists of a big receptacle with many carpels containing many ovaries. Okay, so after fertilization is the receptacle that grows, okay, then turns red. So what happened to all the ovaries in the receptacle here, okay, near to the receptacle? The ovaries probably develop a little bit and form the fruit with the seed inside. But the main part that develops to form the fleshy part is the receptacle, not the ovary. Okay, so calyx is from the flower. This is the calyx, the green calyx from the flower, consisting of many sepals. Now, look at the cross section. You can see here the fleshy part here is actually the part that develops from the receptacle. Okay, and there are all the fruits on the surface of the receptacle here, and inside each fruit is a seed. So the whole structure is called an achene. Okay, and this comes from the ovary. Okay, this structure comes or develops from the ovary with the ovule inside. The ovule will develop to form the seed. So what type of fruit is the strawberry? Let's answer this question. Now, the strawberry is an accessory fruit. Did you get that right? Okay, strawberry is an accessory fruit because you must be able to reason it out. The fleshy pulp, okay, which is red in color, is formed from the receptacle of the flower and not from the ovary. Okay, so the ovary did develop a little and formed the fruit with the seed inside each ovary. So there are many ovaries in each flower. So it did develop to form the fruits. Ovaries develop to form the fruits with the seeds inside. So in that, from that perspective, strawberry can also be considered an aggregate fruit, okay, according to Wikipedia. But first and foremost, it is an accessory fruit because the fleshy part is found from the receptacle of the flower and not from the ovary. Okay, but strawberry is also called an aggregate fruit because it consists of numerous small fruits called the achenes. All right, the orange parts here, formed from many ovaries. Okay, now each achene or each fruit is formed from one ovary. Okay, on a single flower. Okay, from a single flower. So it's an aggregate fruit too. Right, that's all for this lesson. Thanks for viewing, and please do share, like, and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye for now.